Tom Hubler, international speaker and business consultant. Over 40 years consulting to families and helping them leave their legacy. Tom Hubler is a national speaker and experienced business consultant. He's worked with franchises, organizations, and associations to navigate succession planning, leadership challenges and growth, and board structure. Tom is a leader in the field of family business and will share his wealth of knowledge with your group.
Our family circle is an unbreakable bond of support, belief in each other, and unconditional love. It inspires us to live our lives with humility, integrity, and philanthropy. We manifest this through our families, our foundation, and our businesses. And they do have multiple businesses in their family. And so this is something that is an inspiration to them, that guides them as a family as they go through their regular routine as a family business. And then the family prayer for loving kindness, and then the individual visions. And I'll read Gary's, it says Greg on here, but it's really Gary. Gary's individual vision was, I'm a loving, caring, forgiving, generous, understanding, fair, and I have the experience to help my family with their problems, their fears, and I'm open to and I very much care for their well-being. Start with the circles, which I consider to be the main issue in family businesses. It's the overlap between these two systems is what creates all of the difficulties and many of the difficulties in family businesses. And this is an ideal overlap, which represents why family businesses are the most successful form of business in the country. They outperform the Standard & Poor's 500, and they're the source of most new employment and so forth and so on. But what happens is when this overlap is too great, it creates difficulties not only for the family, but also for the business. And I think I mentioned to you, I had a client one time who said to me, I'm always on the job. I've never had a chance of going home from work. And he referred to it as having no refuge. So that's what that slide is designed to represent. I also mentioned to you last time that different members of the family will see these circles in a different sort of way. And I was doing a presentation like this a number of years ago, and I got to this part of the presentation, and a young man raised his head and said, you know, those circles are equal in size. He said, if my dad were drawing those circles, his business circle would look like this, and his family circle would look like that. Then he said, now, if my wife were drawing those circles, her family circle would look like this, but her business circle would look like that. So he said, next time you do the presentation, I think you ought to mention that. And he was about to sit down, and someone said, well, what do your circles look like? He said, I'd rather not say. And she said that basically fulfillment in life is around basically putting your life into 4 buckets of happiness, achievement, significance, and legacy. And the way she defined legacy is that it's your gift to the future to help others find success. Your gift to the future to help others find success. And she says the idea is that you shouldn't wait until you're 65 to start thinking about your legacy. It's something you should be thinking about from, for whatever age you are. And sort of parcel it out and average it out in terms of what you're willing to invest in those 4 buckets. This is my little model of succession planning and a lot of legacy planning. And the upper left hand is where a lot of preparation, or what I call wealth preservation, where legacy is really focused on. And the work that I do has to do with the succession planning part around the big business legacy. But you can see there are 3 other parts there: heritage, family, self, and community. And particularly in terms of community, service and philanthropy is a critically important thing. And it's the antidote to consumption. And we're not here to talk about that today, other than to say that there's a guy named C. Michael Thompson who wrote a book called The Congruent Life, who taught and teaches, I think, still teaches, in the business schools out in North Carolina. And he said service is on the outside like prayer is on the inside. So the notion here, it's important to get your family as a part of your legacy, as a part of what I call the last challenge with entrepreneurship, to get them involved in those sorts of projects. I want to talk now about what I call the life cycle crisis in family business as it relates to this issue of succession planning and retirement. And you can see there, these are the sort of stages of an owner and entrepreneur's career. It's learning, doing, teaching, and letting go. And you can see on this diagram that when the senior generation and the first generation here is letting go, the younger generation is in their major doing phase. And so there's a crisis, there's a conflict. And one of my most successful clients was a situation where the father and son were at odds with each other and came to me, they said, because of their father-son relationship. And the issue really had to do with business, where the son was recruited from Chicago to come back into the business here in the Twin Cities in the real estate business. And what was the problem was, and the crisis had to do with the fact that they didn't agree on having a business plan. And once they got their business plan together, they were able to have a positive father-son relationship. But it created a major, major crisis. And I actually have had clients where there's been 3 generations on the premises. And I had a client one time, he was the 2nd generation, and he came in and said, you know, I'm having some problems with my son. I came to work the other day, and he had changed the locks on the front door of the business and locked me out of my business. And we said, well, that's just terrible. That's just terrible. And then we said, well, listen, how did things go between you and your father? He said, well, the way we handled succession was that my dad would go to Florida every winter, and every time he would go down there, we remodeled the offices. And each year his office got smaller and smaller until one year he got back and he had an office, he had his bench in the service area of the business. So that's how they handled succession. Let's take a look at the management plan, which really needs to be put in place. And what we're talking about now is the professionalization of the family business. So it includes a organizational structure, written job guidelines, entry plans for family members coming into the business, program for training and development of non-family members, compensation plan, plan for management of differences, all of that, which I call a family participation plan. And when we talked last time, I mentioned to you that that's the strategy to create balance between the two systems, is structure and formality. So having this kind of structure is important in a family-owned business. But as I mentioned to you last time, family businesses also oftentimes say to me, Tom, we don't need all that structure and formality because we love each other. And as you remember, I said, it's because you love each other that you need structure and formality. And so this is essential. So related to this now is a management transition with criteria for succession, which is competency and commitment, and a plan for training and development of the next group of leaders and a transition plan, a plan for career development for the younger generation and leadership development. And I want to mention now what I call the last challenge of entrepreneurship. My belief is that owner entrepreneurs don't have to retire. So I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth now. I'm here to talk about retirement, and now I'm telling you you don't have to retire. But what you have to do is change your job description and become the architect and the designer of the new ownership system and the new management and leadership system. And discover or create something that gives you heart and meaning so that you can continue to come to the office and have a sense of dignity about what you're contributing, that you can continue to add value, but it doesn't have to be on a day-to-day basis. Talk with your peers. Utilize the resources of this forum to talk with other people who are involved in succession planning and dealing with these issues. And learn the steps of succession planning. And basically define your role. Figure out what your role is going to be as you think about the future. And create a timetable, and then utilize the resources of an outside board with outside advisors. My belief is that most entrepreneurs are irreplaceable. And given the fact that they're replaceable, the question is, what do you do? Well, you have to create a new system. And the new system is the board of directors with outside members. For the spouse, develop a plan with your partner about what the future is for the two of you. Deal with the changing lifestyles and relationship patterns in your family, and create a specific estate and financial plan that you understand and are involved with. For the next generation, engage in a leadership development process, and if necessary, work with an industrial psychologist to come up with a leadership plan for yourself. Engage in dealing with the founder about career planning and what the career plan is for you, and then hold regular family meetings. And you know from our last presentation that family meetings are critical in terms of managing this boundary between your business and your family relationship.
Education and prevention is one of the keys to continued family business success. Book Tom Hubler to share his ideas about you or members of your organization so you can discover your soul and become a vision-driven family business.